pleasant good morning and welcome to another edition of Ask the Prime Minister. I am your host, Erasmus Williams, and we welcome listeners to ZIZ Radio, KISS FM, Choice FM, and of course Freedom FM, which will be carrying a delayed recording of Tuesday's program. Once again, we welcome all our viewers as well as our listeners, as today's edition of Ask the Prime Minister is also being streamed. In view of the Prime Minister's opening statement, or just before the Honourable Prime Minister make his normal opening statement, we bring you the Prime Minister's address at the meeting of the United Nations General Assembly last Friday in New York City.
I have great pleasure in welcoming the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I invite him to address the General Assembly. Mr. Prime Minister.
Thank you. Mr. President, distinguished Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, esteemed heads of state and government, delegates, ladies and gentlemen, I am particularly pleased to extend congratulations to you, distinguished President, Ambassador John Ash, on your election. And, of course, the service that you have rendered to your native land, Antigua and Barbuda, and the Latin American and Caribbean region in general. As a member of the Organization of the Eastern Caribbean Regional Grouping and the wider Caribbean region, St. Kitts and Nevis pledges its full support to you through your tenure at the helm of this General Assembly. I am confident that your expertise and your skills will position you favorably to guide the general debate and the extensive work program of the various committees and agencies of this august body. Mr. President, St. Kitts and Nevis wishes to place on record its own appreciation to your predecessor, the President of the 67th session, His Excellency Mr. Vuk Jeremic, for the important contributions that he made to advance the work of this institution during his own tenure. Mr. President, we advance into this 68th session fully cognizant of the diverse challenges with which we must contend and equally seized of our obligation as a government and people to contribute to the global priorities that inform the work of this august body. We see the relevance of maintaining sharp focus on those areas that are quite integral to the national and international development agenda. I refer to such matters as sustainable development, maintenance of international peace and security, promotion of human rights, disarmament, promotion of justice and international law, and effective coordination of humanitarian assistance efforts. These, we believe, are our core principles to inform any plan of action to advance into the post-2015 era with the confidence that our shared vision for meeting our set goals will be realized. Mr. President, it was just a few days ago that St. Kitts and Nevis attained another important milestone, celebrating 3 decades of nationhood with a very strong commitment to maintain the stability and prosperity of our nation, drawing on our own creativity as a government and a people. This year's presentation, therefore, it bears great significance for our proud nation. As one of the smallest member states of the Western Hemisphere and of this organization, we are pleased with the significant strides that we have made as my government pursues the process of transformation for sustainability in a nation that is not immune from the global developments that continue to negatively impact our own national agenda. My government, however, is working assiduously in transforming our former sugar-based economy to one that is service-oriented, driven mainly by tourism and hospitality, and supported by international financial services, offshore education services, manufacturing and agriculture. In all of this, we are cognizant of the momentum and, in fact, the impact of information and communication technology as a tool that will assist in the development of the national economy. As far as the manufacturing sector is concerned, we have developed a cluster of light manufacturing enterprises that service the North and South American markets and also the European markets, with quality electronic and electrical components for the construction, cable television, aerospace, and aircraft industries. Indeed, our present economic trajectory will ensure that we meet both our Millennium Development Goals as well as our own Sustainable Development Goals in the post-2015 development agenda. And that is why the theme of this session, the post-2015 development agenda, setting the stage, is perceived to be quite relevant today. Mr. President, my delegation is pleased that during this session of the General Assembly, we will be reviewing progress made towards the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals as the target date of 2015 fast approaches. The distinguished Secretary General must be complimented for his initiative in this regard. I am pleased to indicate that St. Kitts and Nevis has made tremendous strides in achieving the first MDG, that is, the eradication of extreme poverty. Our government has invested heavily in creating a very solid and expansive social safety infrastructure, which has assisted the less fortunate to lead dignified lives. We provide subsidized health care for children and for the elderly. We assist vulnerable families with the resources to pursue education and provide them with a nourishing hot meal each day. We also provide living facilities for the aged and for the indigent. Mr. President, it is the hope of my delegation that globally every single effort will be made to ensure that all targets are met by 2015 indicative deadline. Indeed, the Millennium Development Goals Report 2013 provides a clear indication of exactly where the international community should be directing its focus. And so the world as a whole has to pay great attention to the most off-track MDGs and those where progress has been stalled, including those related to hunger, related to universal access to primary education, related to child mortality, maternal health, and access to sanitation. All nations must therefore redouble their efforts to exercise the requisite political will to implement programs specially designed to meet the established targets and improve the lives of millions in a meaningful way. Mr. President, we must never lose sight of the intrinsic linkages that exist between the Millennium Development Goals and the Sustainable Development Goals, particularly in the post-2015 development agenda. Both processes, though running in parallel, are mutually reinforcing in the sense that the latter will accelerate the programs to meet the targets indicated in the former, while the former will provide valuable lessons necessary for achieving a higher degree of overall success. Mr. President, cognizant of the fact that poverty eradication is intrinsically linked to the attainment of sustainable development, we must therefore all strive to ensure that a balanced approach is taken to blend economic growth, equity, social inclusion, and environmental sustainability as we craft and implement policies to achieve development that is both meaningful and truly sustainable. Indeed, Mr. President, the post-2015 development agenda must be arrived at through transparent and inclusive intergovernmental negotiations under the United Nations. And so in this regard, my delegation notes with appreciation the decision of the special event on the follow-up on the achievement of the Millennium Development Goals, which was convened earlier this week. Mr. President, the post-2015 development agenda should also address other challenges faced by developing countries, such as universal access to modern energy services, ensuring food security and nutrition, full and productive employment and decent work for all, skilled jobs and training, agricultural development, building productive capacity, and infrastructure development. My government has seen the positive impact of its own national initiative geared towards providing the youth, in particular, the youth, I stress, with the skills necessary to integrate into the world of work through the People Empowerment Program, popularly known as the PEP. To date, over 2,000 young men and women are reaping the benefits from this particular initiative. It is highly important that all member states of this great organization play an active role in ensuring that the targets identified in the post-2015 era adequately address the gaps that remain by the indicative deadline for the achievement of the MDGs. Mr. President, my delegation would therefore wish to reaffirm its commitment to ensure that small island developing states remain a special case for sustainable development, recognizing our own unique characteristics, our challenges and vulnerabilities, and the ongoing impact of these on our ability to achieve and build resilience. Small island developing states remain constrained in meeting the economic, environmental, and social challenges. While we recognize our own responsibility in overcoming some of these setbacks, we would wish to stress that in the absence of cooperation and assistance from the international community in general, success will definitely remain difficult. Mr. President, at this juncture, allow me to place on record our own appreciation to some of our development partners who have offered tangible assistance in the stabilization of our national economy, in the general diversification of the national economy, and in particular in the field of agricultural diversification, information and communication technology, development and energy diversification in an economy which relies on fossil fuel consumption, a phenomenon which will positively impact our energy cost reduction efforts as we advance towards utilizing and realizing our goal for a full green economy as we endeavor to bring much needed relief for our people by 2015. The contributions of the government of the Republic of China, Taiwan, Japan, the United States of America, Venezuela, the United Kingdom, Canada, and Cuba, the Organization of American States, the European Union, and the International Monetary Fund and World Bank in particular have assisted greatly in this regard. Mr. President, you will agree that no discussion on the issue of development can progress without reference to the area of health and in particular the chronic illnesses that continue to plague our societies with resultant loss of lives, thus retarding our own development thrust. It was just a few days ago, in the margins of this 68th session of the United Nations General Assembly, that I had the privilege of addressing a forum on non-communicable diseases and disability. held in collaboration with several permanent missions, with the CARICOM Secretariat, with PAHO WHO, and the NCD Alliance. The forum was designed to bring focused attention on creating synergies between NCDs and disabilities, and examine how health systems can be reoriented, can be reinforced to ensure equitable access to high-quality care and thus advancing development. From this forum, we were able to confirm that NCDs are not only driven by aging, but increasingly and alarmingly so by the growing numbers of cases of juvenile diabetes and the growing number of youth incapacitated by accident and injury. The high incidence of NCDs within the Caribbean also places an increased burden on our open economies, which are highly vulnerable to external shocks and natural disasters, diverting resources which can be allocated to building quality infrastructure and our precious human capital. Indeed, Mr. President, we do accept the recommendation of the report of the Caribbean Commission on Health and Development that urgent steps must be taken to reverse this particular trend. And so, as we focus strategically on the Millennium Development Goals and the post-2015 development agenda, we cannot lose sight of non-communicable diseases and the real threat that they pose to societies across the globe. And so we are grateful for the attention that has been given at the United Nations High-Level Forum 2 years ago to the need for a global response to this particular problem. And we recognize that much work has been undertaken by the World Health Organization, the Pan-American Health Organization, and other regional bodies to reverse the high incidence of NCDs in our region, Mr. President. There is now a strong emphasis on testing, since the collection of empirical data is key to proper tracking and analysis, the preparation of strategic plans and budgets, and the incorporation of families and communities in education, prevention, and detection programs. They are all pivotal in this regard. Mr. President, my delegation is convinced that combating the high incidence of non-communicable diseases must receive greater prominence in the Sustainable Development post-2015 agenda. It is evident that there is a strong nexus between a nation's health status and its levels of productivity. And therefore, my delegation subscribes to the notion that a nation's wealth lies in the health of its people. Our high-level meeting of 2 years ago was an important first step in this regard, and it is one on which we must continue to build on an ongoing basis. It is clear that we need to adopt a similar strategy to the global response to HIV/AIDS in order to achieve the levels of success in fighting the incidence of persons with NCDs. Today, I submit respectfully that there are practical lessons to be learned from the experience developed by agencies such as UNAIDS and PAHO, which have touched the lives of millions in a positive way. It is therefore important for this international body to keep on the front burner a practical strategy to address the high incidence of NCDs within our region and the nations of the world. Mr. President, as we usher in a dispensation of sustainment, we remain cognizant of the inextricable link between development and an environment of peace and security. Crime in any society, it is an unwelcomed and destabilizing threat that must be dealt with promptly. Indeed, the ways in which societies are affected at both the micro and macro levels are known to us all. Entire societies are caused to bear the myriad cost associated with personal injury, with psychological insecurity, and the related health care repercussions. That is why we in St. Kitts and Nevis, we have placed great emphasis on effective leadership, clear lines of authority and responsibility, targeted equipment upgrades, expanded and ongoing training, community policing, strengthened relations between the police and the public, and full cooperation at all levels between our national police force and our national defense force. As a result, St. Kitts and Nevis has made tremendous strides in confronting the challenge of crime. Indeed, in the space of just over 1 year, we were able to see crime plummet by some 53%, convincing us of the importance of the United Nations providing a forum via which member states must share best practices in this era of globalized criminality. If the challenge is becoming international in scope, so too must be our response. In this regard, we are equally aware that the socio-economic and political gains that we are trying to achieve in the global community will be elusive. Elusive if the environment of peace is interrupted by warfare and threats to peaceful coexistence among the world's peoples. And so St. Kitts and Nevis joins in condemning the atrocities that have recently been perpetrated in Syria and in Kenya that have resulted in wanton loss of human lives. Such use of chemical and conventional weapons and resorting to acts of violence and terrorism and their spiraling inhuman effects will ultimately have far-reaching deleterious impact on global safety and security, which must continue to be a concern for all the world's leaders and their people. Mr. President, more than any other time in its history, the United Nations must be more assertive in executing its mandate as a leading actor in securing world peace. St. Kitts and Nevis appreciates the strides that we have made with the Arms Trade Treaty and would encourage that we move with alacrity to ensure its coming into force. However, as small island states with open borders, we see the relevance of establishing international standards and controls that will govern the illicit flow of small arms and light weapons through our Caribbean ports. We commend the United States of America for the partnership, that partnership that has been forged with St. Kitts and Nevis and the other member states of the Caribbean that form part of the U.S. Caribbean Basin Security Initiative, which, among other things, will be pivotal to our own efforts at stemming the illicit flow of foreign-made small arms into our peaceful Caribbean region. This initiative has provided the avenues of collaboration in crime prevention and detection as we work together in building capacity for our security forces. This, we are convinced, will contribute significantly to creating the enabling environment for sustainable development through the prevalence of peace and security in our communities. Mr. President, our focus is not only on the international dimensions of crime. Indeed, we are mindful of the fact that all over the world, women and children are among the most vulnerable in our societies. And so we have instituted a clear and assertive zero-tolerance policy in this regard. Violence against women and children must not be seen as either a personal or a family matter, but instead it should be seen as a socially destructive behavior demanding judicial intervention. If and when this zero-tolerance policy does not yet exist, we strongly urge today its embrace and its immediate implementation. Mr. President, 30 years ago, St. Kitts and Nevis established diplomatic relations with several countries, including the Republic of China and Taiwan. And in these intervening years, this relationship has been mutually beneficial. As the debate on sustainable development unfolds, St. Kitts and Nevis is eminently qualified to speak on the myriad contributions that the Republic of China is capable of making to the international community. While the international community is preoccupied with ensuring peace and security globally, we can applaud the government of the Republic of China for promoting peace across the Taiwan Strait and proposing the East China Sea Peace Initiative, thus demonstrating a commitment to peace and stability. Mr. President, Taiwan is one of the top 18 economies globally. In addition, Taiwan has worked assiduously to advance the economic interests of countries such as ours. In this regard, we have collaborated on a large number of key projects, such as the multi-sectoral agrotourism development farm, our own high-priority solar energy farm, and an ICT center, all designed to advance the social and economic interests of my small nation. Mr. President, I wish to place on record my delegation's appreciation to the World Health Organization for inviting Taiwan for 5 consecutive years to attend the WHA as an observer. We are of the view that Taiwan has adopted a very pragmatic approach to its meaningful participation in UN specialized agencies and functional organizations that are critical to the current global efforts to address many issues of mutual concern. My delegation is convinced that the arrangements made for Taiwan's presence in the World Health Assembly, which have been referred to as the WHA model, it serves as a useful point of reference for Taiwan's meaningful participation in other international agencies such as the International Civil Aviation Organization, the ICAO, and the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, the UNFCCC. While on that note, permit me, Mr. President, to commend Mr. Roberto Kobe Gonzalez, the President of the ICAO Council, for the decision to invite Taiwan to attend this month's 38th ICAO Assembly as a special guest. Germane, Mr. President, to the entire concept of exclusion from the international trading arrangement is the trade embargo imposed on Cuba at the height of the Cold War, which today remains a matter of concern for St. Kitts and Nevis, as it does to the vast majority of nations represented in this important institution. Our own position is based on our commitment to international law, the principles of the Charter of the United Nations, and our own obligations under the same. We therefore, like so many in this chamber, we are concerned over the extraterritorial application and effects of national legislation on the sovereignty of states. The government, therefore, of St. Kitts and Nevis reiterates its support for General Assembly Resolution 67-4 on the necessity of ending the economic, commercial, and financial embargo imposed by the United States of America against Cuba, and once again calls for an immediate end to this unilateral action. As we move to close the chapter that ushers in a more enlightened era of human existence, St. Kitts and Nevis joins with the member states of the Caribbean community in supporting the case, that very important case, for reparation associated with the atrocities of slavery. Although the repercussions of slavery on the lives of those of our ancestors cannot be quantified, we are convinced that the deleterious effects which even now are translated into much hardship and poverty for the descendants of our ancestors must be resolved. And so, Mr. President, the time has come. The world has seen more than its share of conflict in recent years. In addition, natural disasters, sometimes caused by climate change, continue to wreak havoc in many corners of the globe. All of this speaks to the importance of us marshalling and managing very carefully those resources that have been placed under our respective control for the benefit of the people whom we represent. It speaks to the importance of us being far more responsible stewards of this planet than we have been in the past. It speaks, Mr. President, to our working assiduously whenever we can to abate tensions and promote peace. And so in closing, I emphasize that there can only be change in 2015 as long as we do not fail to take a bold and definitive stance in addressing the ills that stymie our efforts to move forward in achieving our goals. There will be change in 2015 if we do not fail to pursue the priorities that will eradicate poverty, enhance global peace and security, find alternative means of reducing the impact of climate change and saving our planet from destruction, and reduce elevated incidences of HIV, AIDS, and NCDs. There must be change. There must be change in 2015, Mr. President. If the agencies of this august body adopt a policy of equity and that strong determination to execute their mandate to enable the institutionalization of a culture of peace and security, respect for human lives, and justice for all. Let us therefore today and forever commit to rise to the challenge and move forward, imbued with a renewed sense of focus, determination, and urgency to fulfill our goals. May all that we say here, Mr. President, bring us closer to this most vital and crucial of ends. May it please you. Thank you.
That's the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Llewellyn Douglas speaking at the 68th General Assembly of the United Nations. And it was another proud moment in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis as we observed presidents, prime ministers, and head of United Nations missions walk out and greeted and congratulated the Right Honorable Prime Minister on his presentation. As you were earlier that week, the Prime Minister also received an award from the South for his visionary leadership in sustainable development and information technology. And before we conclude today's edition of the Ask the Prime Minister, we will be bringing to you the presentation or the accolades leveled at the Prime Minister by the United States former President, the Honorable
We can say hello?
Yes.
He came. I saw him when he was here earlier. But I also want to thank my great friend, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Denzil Douglas, for being here. Come here. Now, for all of you starting out on your commitments, This man caused me a lot of trouble. I paid more attention to the Caribbean and Central America than any American president had in decades. So I leave office, and in 2002, Nelson Mandela and I were invited to close the AIDS conference, the International AIDS Conference in Barcelona. And all we were doing, there was no money then. There was no Global Fund. There was no PEPFAR. There was no money for AIDS. And Mandela and I pretended that we were statesmen, and all we were doing was going around rattling a cup for people who were still in office begging for money. Meanwhile, I had to build a library, and we had like 10 employees in the foundation or something. No, as compared with 1,300 today. So Denzel comes up to me and says what I already know, that the Caribbean had the second fastest growing rates of AIDS in the world then, that he was in charge of dealing with this because he was a doctor. And he looked at me after Mandela and I had, given all of our high-flown rhetoric, and he said, look, Bill, he said, we don't have a denial problem. We don't have a stigma problem. We have a money problem and an organization problem. And I said, Denzel, what do you want me to do about it? And he looked at me and said, I want you to fix it. Right?
That's correct.
And like a fool, I said, okay. It was my CGI moment. I had no idea what we were going to do. Okay, fast forward. Now we're providing drugs to people, the least expensive drugs, ARV drugs, in 70 countries. More than 5 million people get medicine off our contracts. Thanks to the French airline tax and a program called Unitaid, our foundation is able to provide life-saving medicine to 75% of the children on earth that are kept alive by AIDS medicine. All because of this crazy conversation I had with an old friend that I just ran into. That's what I hope happens to all of you. I had no earthly idea that all the things that have unfolded in the last 11 years would happen, but I am profoundly grateful for it. And I owe it all to him. So give him a hand, would you?
Thank you. I want to thank President Clinton for really bringing life to several thousands of people in the Caribbean, assisted us in creating the Pan-Caribbean Partnership in the fight against HIV/AIDS, bringing relief in terms of the antiretroviral drugs, which were unavailable and unaffordable. Today, we can speak of universal access to the antiretrovirals and fighting magnanimously to end discrimination and stigmatization of those who are living with HIV/AIDS. Thank you.
I wanted him to come up here not only because he's a sort of hero of mine. He served and then he quit and he could be doing something else and making a lot of money, and he came back and served again. And we virtually ended the transmission.
That's President Clinton and the Right Honorable Dr. Denzel Llewellyn Douglas on Thursday of last week at the Clinton Initiative. Prime Minister, in retrospect, how do you feel?
About the fight against
the accolade given to you by former President Clinton in front of thousands of persons last Thursday.
Well, I think he took me by surprise.
Especially it was not part of the program.
It took me by surprise in the sense that I had gone to the closing ceremony of the regular summer meetings that are held by the Clinton Global Initiative, which coincide with the UN meetings when heads of states and government are in town in New York. And I think once he saw me in the audience there, at the front, he most likely remembered the work that we had done together. And given the fact that the Clinton Global Initiative is engaged in activities of this kind, I think he wanted to draw to the attention of the hundreds of people who were there and the thousands who were viewing, or millions who were viewing, that the CBI, the CGI, was in fact working. I felt good because to be identified as one who at least would have made a contribution in changing people's lives, I felt that really that is what I am in public service to do. I believe that to a large extent what I did in Barcelona so many years ago, asking the president to become engaged in a serious problem that we had in the Caribbean region, was part of my duty in the service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and to a large extent, therefore, I saw it as a moment for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis when, again, as I've been saying, no matter how small you are, no matter how insignificant you think you are, you can impact the rest of the world in ways which will hold whatever you would have achieved, hold you in good stead for whatever you would have achieved. That's why I continue to say to our young people, you are being provided the tools now at your disposal where you can stay here in St. Kitts and Nevis and impact the rest of the world in a positive way. You are being prepared to compete in a world that is becoming much more competitively fiercer. And we are going to be able to do our part successfully if we would only prepare ourselves and seize the moment whenever it presents itself.
Thank you very much. And remember the number to call. You can start to call now. The number to call is 465-2555. That's 465-2555 on today's edition of Ask the Prime Minister. Prime Minister, while we are receiving the calls, we have someone on the line. Okay, let's go to the line and welcome our first caller. We say, good morning, Ask the PM.
Good morning, the right and most distinguished politician and leader of all time, Officer Bratter. Good morning, Mr. Williams.
Good morning.
And also general public. Well, sir, I listened through the entire introduction this morning and asked the Prime Minister through the phone. And I must say, a great, really excellent performance as usual by you. Mr. PM, please allow me to take you on a journey back to the dark days of our political history. So could you remember, Mr. Bratter in his time tried his best to always have a great relationship with the politicians and the people of Nevis. He acquired lands in Nevis for the people of Nevis before he acquired 1 square foot of land in St. Kitts. PAM then, like the PAM now, launched a vicious attack, or a line attack, on the leader and party in order to use the Nevis to help them get into power in St. Kitts. So, do you remember when Godfather opened his arms to one of your former colleague father, but who could not stand seeing this great little black boy from St. Paul's? So he broke ranks and ran against Bratter and got a beating of his life. God's son, which is you, stepped forward at a time when no one wanted the leadership of the Labour Party. They were afraid of Simmons and Pam. It was God's son, you, the little master and charismatic leader from St. Paul's, who came forward to save our people. And to this day, you have not let down the people. Now hear this, sir, and listen to this carefully. The son of the father came and joined the ranks of Labour, even though you were told and warned by many persons who is still alive today not to include him. But because you are a leader with a genuinely good heart for people, you turn a blind eye to the warnings. Now that you have reached the promised land, the Son of the Father, execute the carbon copy on God's Son. For he to believe this little black boy from St. Paul's got too much power, and you should not be the Prime Minister. I remember while you were successful building a great relationship with all the parties in Nevis, persons within your own party were undermining you with what you was doing or trying to do. But when they formed the alliance with a man, a secessionist, who do not like petitions to their bone, but wants to be in government to spite and starve us, like Pam did to CCM and the people of Nevis with the flour. I'm sure you remember that. They say that that secessionist is grinding his teeth to get his hands on the treasury. Remember his words, put me in power so that I can go down to St. Kitts to deal with Douglas. But the first tongue lashing he got, he ran back up crying like a cry baby. The genius Dr. Douglas and his Labour Party dream team, slate of quality candidates with youth and experience, will continue to exhibit continuous competence and brilliance, who will show the world what true democracy is all about, and will not allow the real terrorists and dictators to shut down Freedom FM or muzzle anyone from freedom of expression. Only a Labour government, NIP and NRP, will stop the political gangsters, people after money, Pam Line Party, and the sheriff from oppressive conduct against the people. The majority of the people trust this Labour government. We do not want a government we can't trust, or any disunity government with traitors or people who will easily fall for bribes. Finally, sir, the political infant and secessionist who call himself the sheriff, say to tell you, this is a message, because he gave it to the whole federation, say to tell you while he was out on the people's business, he was in Greenland on the platform. But let me tell you, sir, he came to report to his superior, the PM and Marshal of this federation. The poor secessionist fella do not even know he's last in the ranking order. First is the Marshal, who works for the federal government, just like in the U.S. Second is the trooper, who works for the state. And third and last is the sheriff, who works for the county, just like a little village. Mr. PM, you are the Marshal of the federation. And I finally end by saying, he said, you old, you must go sit down. Those the respect he had on the platform in St. Kitts here. Go rest over in Marriott, England, or Dubai. But you see, he forgot one thing. Or he playing smart, or he's Sam and Vance, and he really disrespecting. He forgot Sam, Vance, and Sleeping Hammy, older than you. He should have told us, because we know he's young, if he is going to rest in the U.S. jail, Ross in Nevis, or HMP in Nevis, if he's going to rest in those jails, while you in comfort. Good morning, sir. Have a good day.
I want to thank our first caller for making some very definitive statements on the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis, and also commenting on, was it the Pappy show you said the other night, Thursday night? Was it the Pappy show that they had? Whatever it was, comments coming out from that show the other night there. But as the caller just said, Douglas is the Marshal. Let those who are below call themselves sheriffs. And you know the song, which I will not repeat here.
Let us go to the phone lines and we say good morning to our next caller. Good morning. Ask the PM.
Good morning, this is the PM.
Yes.
Just calling, I want to ask the PM a little question there.
Sure.
I understand Skellig no little increase what I had paid the other day. And I understand Skellig is 100% government still. And social get, port get, and some others company get just some privatized and Skellig and I understand the workers are frustrated or kind of thing.
Right. You're asking me why they haven't or if they have not gotten?
Why they ain't got any?
Well, firstly, I think one needs to confirm that they have not been given double salary as an independence bonus. Secondly, I think this is a matter that the board of Skelec has to determine. Skelec is a private company, although the only shareholder of the company at the moment is the government. I agree with that. But these are matters that the various boards of the government agencies and government departments, so to speak, public corporations have to make definitive positions about. Of course, the government is not in a position to pay the double salaries for the entities. So the boards must look at their own financial situation and determine whether they are in a position to pay the workers. If they are not able to, of course, there can be a number of possibilities. They can sit with government and see how they might be able to assist in some way. Government itself is not going to be able to pay any double salaries.
Well, not the double salary. So I mean the thing where you put the independence thing the other day.
Right, it was a double salary.
Yeah.
That is what it was. It turned out to be a bonus, which turned out to be a double salary for the month of September. But as I said, I am not certain whether it is being contemplated. I am not certain if all of the government entities also have been paid that bonus. I'm really not certain. You said Social Security, you said the
port.
I know the port definitely was engaged, and the port is involved in some discussion.
But
I don't
the
know
port,
about Social Security.
If the port we're supposed to get to?
Well, the port is a government agency. Don't forget that. The port is a government agency. The port is a private company. That's the difference.
But Dougie, if you just say we are 100% government still, even though we're supposed to get something still. That's I understand the people are saying.
I am not in a position to determine those things. That's what I'm saying. I am not in a position to. The board of the private company is like the National Bank. The National Bank is majority shareholding is owned by the government, but the government cannot direct the bank to pay a bonus to its workers for independence. Can't do that at all. Likewise, the government cannot direct the board of Skelec to pay a bonus to its workers. It's a private company. If it was still under the government, or if it was a public corporation, it definitely would have. But
so like you're saying now that the government ain't gonna shares in Skelec.
Sorry?
The government ain't have no shares in Skelec.
The government owns Skelec. The government is the only shareholder in Skelec. This is what I said. It's the only shareholder. There's no other shareholder. But Skelec is a private company. It has its own stream of funding. It has its own accounts. It has its own ways of generating revenue, which the government does not direct and dictate. The government has put in place a board to look after the interest of the government as the only shareholder. But the government does not run the day-to-day affairs of Skelec. If there is an issue, Skelec may refer the Skelec board chairman and board members, represented by the chair, would make the necessary representation to the ministry under which Skelec is operating, which is the Ministry of Energy, etc. But as I said, I don't think that this is a problem here. If Skelec
the problem to them because other boards get and then it must be a problem.
You're not listening to what I'm saying.
Please say Prime Minister, not just Dougie, please. Have some respect.
You're not listening to what I'm saying. I am saying that even though it may be a problem among the workers should also begin to appreciate that there's a difference here between they being government employees. Government employees, they are not government employees. They are working for a private company that is owned by the government. The cable company is also another private company that is owned by the government, majority shareholding. I am not even certain if the cable workers were also given a bonus, because I know that the cable has serious financial problems. And so I am not even certain. But even if they had serious financial problems and their board had taken a decision, which I believe would be something that is contemplated, they would then see how it is possible. And if it is not possible, then they can't pay it. If it were possible, I'm sure they would pay it. But if it is not possible, then I don't see how they can pay it, because you will not want to incur any debt in order to pay a double salary, which is a bonus. But as I said, it is a matter that I believe I can raise with the chairman, the minister, the board, and see. But I don't believe that the workers should become enraged or anything because they are not being paid. They are being paid higher salaries in the first instance than government employees. They are being paid higher salaries than government employees. And so their level of remuneration is different. The conditions are different. And that is why we were able to negotiate for government employees. There might be some public corporations, as I said, which would have negotiated in a similar way. But as to why and how Skelec would do it, at the moment I am not able to say. But it is something that I will look into.
As we go to our next call, we say good morning. Ask the PM. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning, sir.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. PM, sir.
Good morning.
Yes, I hope everything's well with you. It's my first time calling. I've been trained for a while now, but you know everything. Well, my first thing I want to say, I just want to say give thanks to you. And from back in 93, 95, I said I made a prayer to myself when I asked the Father for you to give me 25 years in office. And I know when you leave office, my country will be well off. I hear some people talking about the PM resigning right there. And I call in just to ask you, please, all I need from you is 25 years. And I know my country will be in a shape that it is well off. You know to talk about these people who know and they're saying things about the PM. Well, the few people in the country that is talking bad about the PM is because they're realizing that the world is recommending you in ways that no other prime minister on the Caribbean could be recommended in. And that is one thing I give thanks for. And I just want to say to you, sir, whole faith, be strong. It's going to be a rough time, but everything that you do, it is rough. When you achieve that roughness and achieve what you are after, it will be well achieved. I just want to say thank you and do the great works. Continue doing the great works that you're doing. And please, like well, yes, this is our country. And what they say about you bringing in dictatorship and all kind of things, well, they don't know what they're talking about. What they want to do is bring dictatorship. And what they can't handle is what you are doing. They can't handle this country. They can't put this country nowhere otherwise than down. All you've been doing is taking it out. And I just want to say thank you. My name is Star Black. Clarence Pemberton, Star Black, everybody call me. I just want to say thank you for doing such a great job. Thank you, sir.
I want to thank our caller, identified himself as Clarence Pemberton, for his kind words. And I think this is really important, that people be genuine and they be truthful, and also that they do not allow themselves to look ridiculous. The caller is expressing his views. He thinks that the country has moved in a good direction. It has had improvement over the years. Of course, we know that we are not perfect. We know that everything that we've set out to do would not be achieved. But one of the things that really I think our people have been talking about is the hypocrisy that is being seen in these days. I'm told that relating to what happened on Thursday night, that one of the former leaders of PAM, I say former because Sean Richards is no longer a leader of PAM. In fact, I think PAM has really disintegrated, I understand. But he was on the platform saying that for 18 years the Labour Party in government has done nothing for this country. And I am told, and it was so pathetic, I need to look at it still, that there was Sam Conda and Timothy Harris clapping vociferously when Sean is saying for 18 years, the government of which he was the Deputy Prime Minister and also a senior minister, it has done nothing for 18 years, and they applaud for that. This is the kind of hypocrisy and ridiculous nature that we are seeing emerging at this time, because people simply want to get power. So it seems as though these days you will do anything, you will say anything, you will sell your very soul, you will make yourself look stupid and ridiculous just to make a point that you want to get into power. So here is Sean Richards saying, for 18 years, Labour government has done nothing. And the Deputy Prime Minister, who was Deputy Prime Minister for 18 years, applauds and says, boy, Sean, yes, you're right. We did nothing for 18 years. But he's now saying, get me elected to get something done. Really ridiculous. Maybe Sam did nothing, but I know that the Labour Party government did a lot. And that is what I think needs to be emphasized. Maybe Timothy did nothing except looking after himself. But I know that the Labour government did a lot for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the brother saying that he expects me to have 25 years in government. That's a long time. But I don't see how far I could reach.
As we go back to the phone lines and we take our next call on today's edition of Ask the PM. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Praise the Lord. Hallelujah. Thank God I am on. PM, God bless you. I love you. A prophet has no honor in his own country. The people of St. Kitts and Nevis, those who don't love you, those who don't care about you, those who are jealous of you, they would never praise you. They would never thank God for you. Because what you have, what the Lord has blessed you with, they do not have. You don't mind them. I'm saying this morning, while they were here pulling you down, look at it. You were up there and they were lifting you up. They appreciate you and they talk about you. I know I heard people talk about you. They said, St. Kitts Nevis people, this is what I'm saying, are very ungrateful because you are the one who helped those people who suffering with AIDS to get the medication in the Caribbean. And this morning, I'm truly blessed to hear President Clinton talking about you. So I'm saying, we here in St. Kitts and Nevis, some of us don't appreciate you, don't love you, envy you, even for your age. Even your age, thank God you have reached there. Many of them don't know how long they're going to live, how if they would ever reach where you are. But guess what? Age comes. When you are there, you have wisdom. And that's why you are a wise man. They cannot fool you. They cannot give you no 6 for no 9. They cannot pull no wool over your eyes. And they're talking about your age. Okay, you are blessed. You are truly honored. And I had to laugh last week when I heard Bro and Nancy. I don't know if you're old enough to know about Bro and Nancy. When I was going to school, I used to like to read Bro and Nancy's story because Bro and Nancy always tried to outsmart people. And when I listened to Bro and Nancy last week talking about to God be the glory, great things he has done, and great things we will do. Give me a break. Give me a break. Let Bro Nancy talking about love, how much he loves people. Love what? What he knows about love. All they know is to rob people, to take away from the poor. And in the end, when they're sitting there and clapping, when they hear the others pulling you down, tearing you down, they have to clap You always hear two-man crab can't live in the same hole, because this one is saying he's so bright, he's even more intelligent than you, but ungratefulness worse than witchcraft. Because when he was away in Canada or wherever he was away to school, when you took the taxpayers' money and you made sure that he had money for him and his family, his parents, he forget about that. He forget about that, and he can boast off today about he's more educated than you. Well, I feel he might put himself that he's even brighter than God. When they reach like that and they have more degrees, they think than a thermometer. You don't mind them. You don't boast in all those things. Today we are here in a sound mind, and it only takes sickness. It just takes something, and you don't even know what time of day it is. You don't even know what day it is. And PM, I love you. You are a simple man. You are humble, and you boast. Don't boast about anything. The Lord bless you. He's going to keep you. And I'm saying, why they're putting you down, we are praying for you. We are praying for you this morning. From 2 o'clock, I was up until minutes to 4. And I'm saying I was praying. I was holding you up. And when I lift you up, I know my God had you lifted up in his right hand. Read Psalm 33, and you will see what I'm talking about. Let not your heart be troubled. You continue to trust in the Lord. Do not be shaken by man. They did not put you there. And when my God is ready, you will know, because he will speak to you when the time is up. You are our deliverer. You are our deliverer. And that is why the Lord uses you. They cannot move you. Don't care how much unity government they form. Don't care how much disunity government they have, because they cannot work together. What is their symbol? It's none of my business, really. But I want to know, what is their symbol? Premier, Prime Minister, I love you, and may the Lord continue to keep you, and I will forever pray for you as long as my head is hot and I am in my right mind. And I have the mind of Christ, so I'm going to stay in my right mind. God bless you, and I love you.
Thank you, my dear. I want to thank our last caller for really pouring her heart out. I believe that she feels she has this passion for our country. She wants to see our country move forward. She loves her Prime Minister, and I believe that she will continue to pray for us. Of course, there's no country on earth without difficulties. All of the personal abuse, my dear, those things don't trouble me. I remain focused, determined, dedicated to move forward. Now and again trying to punch off through. That's all. Let's move on.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, as we take 2 more calls. Good morning. Ask the PM. Let's try the next call. Good morning. Ask the PM.
Good morning, Prime Minister.
Good morning.
Good morning, Erasmus.
Good morning.
Yeah, now, Prime Minister, I heard you say that pensioners, because I am one, I work for government, and I retired there. Pensioners will get a double pay. Is that how? I would like you to explain, because I haven't got any. I'm a pensioner, work for government, and retired there.
Right. No, you should have. But if you were you paid on the 18th of this month?
Yes.
You got a salary on the 18th?
No, just my usual month's salary.
Right. No, you should have been paid a double salary. I'm not certain why.
Oh.
So I will inquire at the Treasury today.
Yes.
You know who the person is?
No.
My name?
Let her give the name off.
Give your name off the air.
Oh, yes, okay, yes. I would say I thank you very much to bring Mr. Walwyn here,
Yes.
Because we don't know what we would have ever done. I mean, God is with him too, God first and hereafter. And I thank you because that you could have think of such a thing, to go and get him and bring him here. And from the time he came here, he was at work. The first time he went to Keyon and he brings down some perpetrators to justice. And he continued and keep on working. And I said it already sometime last week, and I mentioned your name too, but since you come back and you're here, I say that you yourself will hear it. I am glad for him very, very much. Some people say, I heard people saying, maybe in the bus when I'm coming home or so, well, he catch them so quick. I said to them, it's 25 years. He in law enforcement, so he know it all. He know it east, west, north, south. He know it top, he know it bottom. And I thank you for such a thought that you can go and bring him. And not only so, he's a son of the soil.
Good.
And thank you and both of him. Okay?
Give your name off the air, lady.
Do it now?
Yes.
Yes.
They'll hold on the line.
Huh?
Oh, yes.
Say it now.
No, they will speak to you off the air.
Oh.
Okay?
All
As
right.
we take our next call. Don't go away.
Yes.
Good morning, Ask the PM. Hello?
Oh, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
How are you, Rasmus?
I'm fine, thank you. Please be quick. We're running out of time.
I just want to say congratulations to you all, and I had a wonderful time with the Prime Minister when you all was here. And I just want to say, may God continue to bless him and guide him, and may he have prosperity. And I just want to say, may God give him long life. PM, I love you. This is Azari, and I want to say congratulations again, and may God continue blessing you. And you do your work, lift your head high, and give God praise. Give God praise for the glory. And I want to say, PM, take care of yourself. Doesn't matter what they want to say about you. And I want to say to Mark Brantley this morning over here, Mark Brantley, we will never give you the opportunity to take over St. Kitts because you're not going to sing St. Kitts to the bottom. We're going to stay on top, and the Labour Party is going to prevail. Whatever unity they want to form, let them form it because they cannot prevail. Timothy and Sam have to be ashamed of themselves. And when Sean going to call my Prime Minister names, Sean had to be ashamed of himself because, Sean, the party don't have you nowhere. Look where Tom is today, to the bottom of the pit. Tom party is today. That they could realign themselves with Timothy and Sam and make Timothy the leader. They are traitor and they will never come on board. The Labour Party will stand up and we will stand up for our island of beautiful St. Kitts that my Prime Minister create in St. Kitts. We will never let them take it away from us and put it back to the pit. We're going to prevail and we're going to be on top. Congratulations again. I felt so proud this morning hearing what the former president was saying about my Prime Minister. I didn't know all that. And I want to say congratulations, PM. Congratulations again. And may God continue blessing you and deliver St. Kitts to the world. Deliver it. Continue your great job. Have a wonderful day, PM, and may God continue to guide you. Rasmus, take care. Love you all. PM, I love you. Bye.
Love you too. I want to thank Azwin for her call, for her very strong congratulations expressed, for the commendations and the forthrightness with which she speaks, her dedication and determination to stand up for her party despite the challenges that the party faces. I want to also go back a bit to the pensioner who spoke of, again, commendations to the Commissioner of Police, just to again emphasize that the Commissioner was found through a search party, went through a very extensive process where he was interviewed among, I think, about 5 other persons, and eventually was adjudged to be the person best suited at this time to take over the leadership of the police force. I want to thank him again for his dedicated service, thank his family for lending him the support and the time that is required for him to be here with us in St. Kitts. I want to thank those in the police high command who have been working very closely with him, and those, of course, in the leadership of the defense force who collaboratively have made so far this job one that is described by our own people, one that is fruitful, and one that has been successful. But the fight continues. There is still crime, and the level of crime is still unacceptable, and we have to continue to work at it to make sure that not only do we prevent crimes, but that those which actually have taken place, the perpetrators are brought to justice, and that we can allow then the judicial system to take its course. So I want to thank our pensioner and to thank her for her service that she has provided, of course, in the public service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
PM, I think we have run out of time and time to close today's program.
Yes. I didn't have enough time to make any opening statement. I'll do that sometime in the future because I'm sure the issues are live and they will continue to be. I wanted to make some references to what was happening in the United States of America at this time, where those who are determined to bring President Obama down, to bring his policies down, especially his healthcare policies, are going as far as crippling the financial effectiveness of the government, the public service in particular, and certain other programs that are being pursued by the Obama administration. This, of course, has implications not only for the Americans, but for us here and for the peoples of the world. And parallels, of course, can be drawn between what is happening in America and what has been attempted here in St. Kitts over the last few months, when in December there was a serious attempt to cripple the effectiveness of the government from pursuing its specific mandate. I believe that as we are aware, the behavior of the Republicans in the United States of America at this time, we know that the Democratic leadership has referred to this kind of attitude as legislative terrorism, just as we saw something almost being tried here, similarly being tried here in St. Kitts in this December with the motion of no confidence. I want to say, however, that it has been a good day. My absence from the Federation has been as a result of doing active duty. And so I want to use this opportunity finally in closing to thank and commend all of our national organizations and associations abroad, those in Miami, I attended their function, those in Texas, those in Atlanta, those in New York, those in Washington, those in Toronto, those in St. Martin, those who are in British Virgin Islands, those in Atlanta, those in the USVI, all of those who have come together at this time when we celebrate our 30th anniversary of independence, and they have marked this milestone in their own way, whether they were through national associations or whether they were simply families coming together to celebrate. I want to commend the organizers in particular for those events in New York which I attended. I want to commend the church and the leadership at the
Beulah
Wesleyan Methodist in Harlem, and also for those at the Crawford Memorial Methodist Church in the Bronx. I want to commend CABA, led by Mrs. Robinson. She has been there ever since I've been the Prime Minister, and maybe before that. It's been in leadership of that organization, and every year has been very faithful in holding the independence service there in the Bronx. I want to commend her, thank all of the people who attended. I want to commend our own ambassador to the United States of America, Ambassador Jacinta Martin, who has been making it her special duty to attend and if not able to attend, however, to be engaged and involved in every single activity that the associations are pursuing. I want to thank our own Ambassador Bart at the United Nations, the mission, for the support that has been provided, and also Ambassador Stoner Brown and First Secretary Williams, who traveled with me, and also, of course, the Minister, Foreign Minister, Patrice Nisbet, who also was with us there in New York. I want to thank finally Reverend Edmund Martin, who could be very well listening to this program. He said he listens once he's able to, every Tuesday. I want to thank him for, again, the sermon that he brought, lifted the hearts of the congregation, and made the special service really special, as he really reminded us of what we have achieved and what the leadership is to a people that is achieving God's will. I want to thank all for their support that has been provided from Florida all the way up to Texas, Atlanta, New York, Washington. Thank you so very, very much for your support.
And that brings us to the end of another edition of Ask the Prime Minister. But before we go, we bring again to you the statement by the former United States President, the Honorable Bill Clinton, in recognition of the services to the entire world by the Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Dr. Denzil Llewellyn Douglas. We share this with you in closing today's edition of Ask the PM.
He came, I saw him when he was here earlier. But I also want to thank my great friend, the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Dr. Denzil Douglas, for being here. Come here. Now, for all of you starting out on your commitments, this man caused me a lot of trouble. I paid more attention to the Caribbean and Central America than any American president had in decades. So I leave office, and in 2002, Nelson Mandela and I were invited to close the AIDS conference, the International AIDS Conference in Barcelona. And all we were doing, there was no money then. There was no Global Fund. There was no PEPFAR. There was no money for AIDS. And Mandela and I pretended that we were statesmen, and all we were doing was going around rattling a cup for people who were still in office, begging for money. Meanwhile, I had to build a library, and we had like 10 employees in the foundation or something. No, as compared with 1,300 today. So Denzil comes up to me and says what I already know, that the Caribbean had the second fastest growing rates of AIDS in the world then. That he was in charge of dealing with this because he was a doctor. And he looked at me after Mandela and I had, given all of our high-flown rhetoric. And he said, look, Bill, he said, we don't have a denial problem. We don't have a stigma problem. We have a money problem and an organization problem. And I said, Denzil, what do you want me to do about it? And he looked at me and said, I want you to fix it. Right?
That's correct.
And like a fool, I said, okay. It was my CGI moment. I had no idea what we were going to do. Okay, fast forward. Now we're providing drugs to people, the least expensive drugs, ARV drugs, in 70 countries. More than 5 million people get medicine off our contracts. Thanks to the French airline tax and a program called Unitaid, our foundation is able to provide life-saving medicine to 75% of the children on earth that are kept alive by AIDS medicine. All because of this crazy conversation I had with an old friend that I just ran into. That's what I hope happens to all of you. I had no earthly idea that all the things that have unfolded in the last 11 years would happen, but I am profoundly grateful for it. And I owe it all to him. So give him a hand, would you?
Thank you. I want to thank President Clinton for really bringing life to several thousands of people in the Caribbean, assisted us in creating the Pan-Caribbean Partnership in the fight against HIV/AIDS, bringing relief in terms of the antiretroviral drugs, which were unavailable and unaffordable. Today, we can speak of universal access to the antiretrovirals and fighting magnanimously to end discrimination and stigmatization of those who are living with HIV/AIDS. Thank you.
We thank our listeners to ZIZ Radio, Choice FM on Nevis, as well as Freedom FM, who will carry this on Wednesday, and of course listeners to KISS FM. A pleasant good afternoon or good morning to you, and just to remind you that this month is another anniversary of Ask the PM, and you'll hear more about a special programming to observe another anniversary. Thank you. God bless you.